From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I'm Soini Gray. The prosecution in El Salvador have changed the charges against Imelda Cortez from aggravated homicide to abandonment of a person. She had been jailed for allegedly attempting to have an abortion. Now she could be released after spending almost 2 years in prison. Protesters gathered over the weekend demanding justice for Imelda, who had been raped repeatedly by her stepfather from the age of 12. Activists say Imelda is on trial despite actually being the victim. Now, Latin America is one of the most restrictive regions in the world when it comes to abortion rights. It has the highest proportion of Catholics in the world, as well as the highest rates of maternal mortality.
3 countries in Central America have a complete ban on abortion: Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua, along with Haiti in the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic, Mexico, Panama, Ecuador, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil allow abortion in cases of rape, and so do Colombia and Bolivia, which also permit in the case of incest. Abortion is banned except when the life of the mother is at risk in Mexico, Guatemala, Panama, Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, and Venezuela. Some other countries make further exceptions when there is a risk to the woman's health: Costa Rica, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. Cuba and Uruguay have the most progressive laws in the area, with abortion being legal within certain time limits. Even after this period, abortion is still allowed in certain circumstances.
Now, 2 Hungarian lawmakers have been ejected from the headquarters of the country's public broadcaster after trying to read out a petition against a new labor law. They were amongst a number of members of parliament who protested against the right-wing Prime Minister Viktor Orban's policies by saying in the television station overnight they're demanding the repeal of the new labor law. They want an independent media and for Hungary to join the European Union Prosecutor's Office. The new legislation has been labeled a slave law. More demonstrations are expected.
The FtS climb inside here in different waves. It seems like in Hungary the normal entrance to the building of a public institution doesn't exist anymore. All entrances have been closed, so this is the only way for FtS to get into an institution which is financed by the Hungarian taxpayers.
On Sunday, thousands of Hungarians protested for the 4th time against the Prime Minister in Budapest and the new labor law. This new law allows employers to ask for up to 400 hours overtime work per year. Civil rights organizations said that this new law may be the last of the democratic institutions to be destroyed since Viktor Orban took office in 2010.
The change in the law of labor on overtime and the change of the court system are definitely the things which motivate us to demonstrate and speak up.
And now we're being joined live by the independent journalist Balazs Cseko. He has participated in most of the protests against Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government. Thank you so much for joining us. In the latest development, 2 members of parliament have been forcibly removed from the headquarters of Hungary's national television station. Why did this happen?
Good afternoon to you. So we have had already protests for approximately a week in Budapest, and during yesterday's protest the crowd moved from the parliament building directly to the headquarters of the national television building, and several MPs entered the building because MP law actually allows MPs to move freely within state-owned facilities. However, as we could witness during last night, their movement of freedom was restricted heavily. Many of them were actually beaten up and violently kicked out of the building. During yesterday's protest, also several persons tried to enter the headquarters of the MTV, but they were not allowed to do that because there was a very strong police presence.
Balazs, the TV station where the protests happened haven't reported on it, even though the police were very violent and used pepper spray to disrupt the protesters. What is the reaction of the Prime Minister, Orban, and his government to all of this?
Well, the Orban administration is actually blaming George Soros, Hungarian-born US billionaire George Soros, for all the protests that are taking place in Hungary. But this is, I would say, nothing new for Hungarians, because there have been several campaigns already made by the same administration against the same gentleman. But now the government is also, of course, blaming the opposition parties for causing upheaval within the society. But first and foremost, they are blaming the Hungarian magnate or Hungarian-born magnate George Soros.
Daily protests were originally sparked by the recently passed so-called slave law, but it seems that just like in France, they've grown into something bigger and more persistent. So what do you believe is really going on?
No, these protests are already bigger than just a slave law. These protests have become a huge anti-government movement, and this movement wants at least a 5-point petition to be read out in the state-owned television headquarters. And this is exactly what the MPs of the opposition tried to do last night. And I would like to highlight the 5 points. So repeal the slave law, that's number 1. Number 2 is less overtime hours for the police. Number 3, independent judiciary. Number 4 is joining the European Public Prosecutor's Office. And number 5 is free media. So even if the Hungarian government at the end of the day decides to repeal the slave law, I don't really think that they can stop these protests so easily.
Now, Balazs, who exactly is involved in organizing the protests? Is it one organization or several? And are they asking for the same thing, or is it multiple points that they're fighting for?
There are multiple points that they are fighting for, and it's a very wide scale of supporters who are actually participating in this protest. So this scale is very diverse. It goes from the left-wing anarchists over socialists, over social democrats, liberals, conservatives, to the right wing. It's a bit bizarre to see all these forces marching together for democracy, but this is the Hungarian reality. And they are united in one position, and the position is to be against FtS, to be against the government. FtS is the government party. The other day at the parliament, there was a very symbolic disagreement between the right-wing Jobbik and the non-Jobbik supporters regarding the role of the police. Jobbik supporters were calling policemen as communists. At the same time, non-Jobbik supporters were calling them fascists. So I think this example clearly shows how ideologically divided these people are within the opposition. But they are united on the streets already, this is something which still has not happened within the parliament, because the opposition parties within the parliament they keep being divided, and they should understand that the only way forward in Hungary, if they want to maintain democracy, is to be united against the current government. So the anti-government feelings are actually uniting these protesters. They all want to defeat the Orban administration. And as Peter Markizai, the mayor of Hódmezővásárhely, said 3 hours ago at the current protest, I'm going to quote him. He said, "The government has already failed in Budapest. The supporters have to bring the truth to the people in the provinces." And I think this is a very symbolic message, because this explains very well the nature of these protests.
Thank you so much, Balazs Cseko, for talking to us. We appreciate your insight on this.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Protests in the U.S. continue over the death of a 7-year-old Guatemalan migrant, Jacqueline Cal. Activists have gathered outside the U.S. Customs and Border Protection offices in Washington, D.C. They're demanding justice and that those responsible be held accountable. The child left Guatemala with her father and 13 other families, hoping to find a better life in the U.S. Her family is now mourning her death.
The family of Jacqueline Calmaquin lives with many difficulties in San Antonio de Cortés, a small village in the mountains. 420 people live in that village in the center of Guatemala. Jacqueline's father, together with other 13 families, left his village and headed towards the United States, where he hoped to find a job so he could send some more money back home.
My husband left home because of poverty, because of the extreme poverty we are living in.
Jacqueline's family says she was very happy when she knew about the trip. Her father, 29 years old, Neri Gilberto Cal, was also excited.
Some people have asked how Jacqueline felt about the trip. She was very happy because she wanted to arrive to the United States.
However, father and daughter were arrested last 6th of December by U.S. border troops, along with a group of migrant people when they were crossing in Antelope Wheels, an international border crossing between Chihuahua in Mexico and New Mexico in the U.S. Hours after they were arrested, Jacqueline threw up several times and got fever. She was transferred to a hospital, and after 2 heart attacks, she stopped breathing. Her death has put into focus the reality of thousands of migrants and shows the consequences of migrant policies fronted by the United States and its President Donald Trump.
We'll take a short break now. Join us here in a few. Welcome back. Paraguay will propose that Bolivia be fully integrated into Mercosur, actually. The 53rd meeting of the Southern Common Market Trade Bloc is being held in Uruguay's capital, Montevideo. Representatives from Bolivia are in attendance as the country awaits authorization as a full member. Mercosur was established in 1991 to promote free trade and the fluid movement of goods, people, and currency. Currently, only Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay are full members. 600 more people have returned to Venezuela as part of the Return to the Homeland initiative implemented by the government of President Nicolas Maduro.
People continue to return to Venezuela, the most recent group coming from Ecuador and Peru. It's a relief for them to return to their home. They're carrying the same luggage with which they left.
I worked in the street, and the xenophobia was massive. I am very sad because I left many Venezuelan friends behind. I said that we should leave. You have to think about it. But if you're going to work for 14 hours, I'd prefer to work in my country and strive for my family.
Stories of exploitation and fake work offers unmask the reality of life in countries where they think they can resolve their problems.
When you're looking for a place to live, they treat you differently. If you're Venezuelan, they reject you. It happened to me on numerous occasions.
There are many cases of labor exploitation.
We are mistreated. They exploit us. We work many hours, which isn't an issue. The problem is that often they do not pay us for working all those hours.
Experts insist that there is an international campaign to politicize the flow of Venezuelan migrants in order to attack the Latin American country.
Many Venezuelans have been exposed to the violations of their rights in countries where there isn't such a strong commitment to this, as there is the Bolivarian Revolution in this country, where it's important, historical, and forceful.
11,000 Venezuelans have already returned home because of the lack of opportunities in the countries they have left for. The majority return hoping to study, work, and bring prosperity to Venezuela.
A fire has broken out at an oil refinery in the north of Rio de Janeiro. It has now been brought under control by 2 squads of firefighters. Roads in the area have been closed and black smoke was seen rising from other parts of the city. Nearby residents were told to leave their homes as a precaution. And still in Brazil, a new social media app is transforming the work of informal trash collectors. The Kataki app allows trash collectors to register on their social media platform. And then people in the area use the app to flag a collector to come to their residence or business to pick up trash or recyclables. Collectors are paid by the kilo for recyclable materials. The app's collectors hope it helps trash collectors to earn extra money.
There are already registered collectors in more than 191 Brazilian cities. It's a network of over 1,000 collectors who are getting calls from people who want to recycle every day.
Before the app, I almost never got calls to pick up recyclables or trash. But since the app, people start calling me to pick up recyclables and rubbish.
The government of Puerto Rico has announced that 80% of the bridges and roads destroyed by Hurricane Irma and Maria have been repaired. Authorities say that most of the repair works are finished despite the financial crisis the government faces. The estimated cost of the work was over $350 million. Hurricanes Irma and Maria devastated the Caribbean island in 2017. An initiative in the heart of the Peruvian Amazon is seeking to reforest timber trees. A Spanish researcher has managed to naturally germinate threatened lumber trees like mahogany and Peru's native Huahuaco on a large scale. The project could be a cure for deforestation. In the first 6 months of 2018, the Peruvian Amazon lost over 23 hectares of forests. The Cuban government has said the country's economy will grow in 2019 at the same rate it did during 2018, despite tougher economic sanctions from the United States. Cuba is aiming for a 2% growth but has been affected by both U.S. sanctions and the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. Cuba's economy has grown by 1% in 2018, 1.8% in 2017, and 0.5% in 2016. The announcement was made after a meeting of the National Assembly's Economic Commission, also attended by President Miguel Díaz-Canel. Thousands of Cuban worshippers have paid homage to St. Lazarus at his sanctuary in Havana. The St. Lazarus pilgrimage is one of the most important religious festivals on the island. Devotees flock to the shrine and ask the saint to cure relatives' ailments. The cult of St. Lazarus melds Afro-Caribbean spirituality with Roman Catholic beliefs. Costa Rica has welcomed the Christmas period with a festival of lights. A parade in San Jose filled the streets of the capital with music and colors. Different groups, schools, and organizations participated in the parade, which has become a tourist attraction for visitors. And residents in the rural areas of the Ixcan municipality in Guatemala are condemning the hiring of ghost companies for the construction of infrastructure projects that are never finished.
These residents are outraged for the scams they say they suffer at the hands of the authorities of Ixcan Inquiche about a request they made for the maintenance of the 25-kilometer road that connects their community.
It's been a series of fake promises and lies, because the repair works for the road don't move forward.
Residents say they have taken to the streets because they have found out that at the beginning of 2018, the municipality awarded the repair project to different private companies on 2 separate occasions.
The thing that worries us is that these projects were not executed in our communities.
The maintenance project for the 25-kilometer road is valued at more than $38,000. It was awarded to the construction company FtS, but according to residents, remains incompleted.
We have never seen these companies. The mayor has never shown a document proving these companies even exist.
Communities have been denouncing the fact that the Ixcan municipality is working with a group of ghost companies that have been awarded the majority of infrastructure projects that have been left behind.
We keep calling and they never pick up. We need to know if these companies are real or whether all of this is fake and these companies do not exist.
In Guatemala, they call all the projects that are never finished by authorities a monument to the corruption.
We'll take a short break now, but we'll have more news in a minute.
After the triumph of the revolution in Cuba, childhood has taken on an unparalleled social space. Documentaries Telesur presents a children's theater company opens a window for the participation of the little ones. La Colmenita, Sons and Dreams. Premiere Sunday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Turkey has threatened to launch new unilateral action in Syria against the Kurdish YPG organization. The US-backed YPG has been fighting against the Islamic State group. During a speech in the province of Konya, President Erdogan said he has US support for the operation.
Last week, we officially announced that we will start a military operation on the east of the Euphrates. Now we are following it up. We discussed this with Mr. Trump and got a positive response. So we are moving forward. Until the last terrorist in the region is neutralized, we will comb through Syrian territory, inch by inch.
The U.S. military says it has killed 62 members of the Al-Shabaab group in airstrikes on the outskirts of the Somali capital of Mogadishu. In a press statement, the U.S. military's Africa Command said it carried out 4 strikes on December 15th, in which 34 people were killed, and 2 more on December 16th, which killed 28. U.S. airstrikes have increased dramatically since President Donald Trump took office and approved expanded military operations in Somalia. And these 3 people have been killed after the roof of a Russian factory collapsed in Moscow. Another 12 were injured in the incident. According to the authorities, the collapse could have been caused by installation works on the roof and the weight of the equipment used. Switching gears now, the leader of the British Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, has said his party has tabled a vote of no confidence in the Conservative Prime Minister Theresa May. Corbyn says he made the move because May failed to hold a meaningful Brexit vote as promised.
This is unacceptable in any way whatsoever. So, Mr. Speaker, as the only way I can think of ensuring a vote takes place this week, I am about to table a motion which says the following: that this House has no confidence in the Prime Minister due to her failure to allow the House of Commons to have a meaningful vote straight away on the withdrawal agreement and framework for future relationships between the UK and the European Union. And that will be tabled immediately, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank the Leader of the Opposition for what he said.
Earlier, Prime Minister Theresa May announced that the parliamentary vote on Brexit will take place on the week of July 14th. Now, May has also discarded a second referendum. She says that another vote on Brexit would create divisions and make citizens lose faith in politics. The Prime Minister postponed the vote on Brexit in Parliament last week as she couldn't secure a majority.
Must be heard. And all that I think.
Yellow Vest protesters have rallied in front of the Rungis International Market in Paris, the world's largest wholesale food market. Protesters were joined by tourism vehicle for hire drivers to slow down traffic entering the market. The Interior Minister has called on Yellow Vest protesters to stop demonstrating, citing safety on the roads.
Last week we started to evacuate some roundabouts. We will continue doing so. You know, there was an 8th dead on Saturday. It was in Avignon. A young man, a 23-year-old yellow vest. The day before that, there was a young woman in an accident who was driving up to a roundabout, which was being occupied with no warning ahead of it. So she died. 8 deaths. I don't know of any social unrest in the past 30 years, which has killed so many people. So I say it loud and clear, enough is enough. For the safety of Yellow Vest protesters themselves, it's enough for the security of the French, and it's enough for the safety of our security forces.
With the arrival of the holidays in Catalonia, the famous and powerful are being depicted in a uniquely Catalan way. Hand-painted statuettes with their pants down can be found hidden within traditional nativity scenes. Whilst any known figure can be depicted, a special place is reserved for politicians. And the reconstruction of the Al-Nuri Mosque and its famous leaning minaret has begun in the Iraqi city of Mosul. A ceremony has been held to celebrate the laying of the mosque's new cornerstone. The 12th century national emblem was destroyed last year in fighting with the Islamic State group. The repairs are expected to be completed in about 2 years' time. And with that, we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at tellusyourenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you for watching.